So I'll actually probably skip over this. This is a good book, though. Entrepreneurship in the Social Sector. If you're looking for some good pieces there, that's where this concept came from. I actually got this off of Google Books, so I'm not sure if the whole book is there or not, but it's a really good one to kind of check out. And I've got a lot of businesses actually, management systems look like this, or maybe a bit more sophisticated with Excel spreadsheets trying to sort of keep track of huge amounts of information. And you spend a lot of time just trying to manage the data without really thinking about, is this actually useful? And especially for nonprofits, this is really difficult because a lot of the times funders are asking you for metrics and things that make a lot of sense and are really relevant to funders and are absolutely irrelevant and make no sense to the organizations that are on the ground trying to do work. So if you can think through these processes about how you can measure and demonstrate your effectiveness, you can communicate that back to funders and start to sort of change that dynamic a little bit about what they're asking for. Because funders aren't necessarily bad, it's just doing this kind of stuff is complicated. And organizations that are funding hundreds or thousands of different nonprofits, they don't necessarily have time to go into this detail for each organization. So if you can help them with that can really be helpful. So what I'm going to show you quickly is an example of how this can look that we did with Potluck Cafe. So how many people have heard of Potluck? Okay, quite a few. Okay, cool. So for those of you who don't know, Potluck is just, oh shoot, I'm giving away my whole thing. Hopefully that's not going to auto-advance. Hold on just one sec. It will? Okay. So Potluck Cafe are a social enterprise. And what that means is they're a nonprofit that operates a business to generate revenue, to really try and reduce their reliance on government funding and outside funding, and also to generate local economic activity, believing that if you can employ people, if you can be purchasing supplies, if you can do those kind of things, you actually have a multiplier effect. Every time you're spending that money is being respent in the local community, people are buying local supplies, it's sort of a cascade effect. So they provide catering for corporate breakfast, lunches, events, those kind of things, wedding, all that kind of stuff. And the money that they bring in, they use the profits to provide free meals for the residents of the Portland Hotel Society. People that have severe mental disabilities, severe addiction issues, severe health issues, sometimes that never actually leave their rooms, but they get free meals from Potluck. They also employ people from the local community, giving them job skills training, employment support, and so on. And one of the challenges they had was they're doing all this kind of stuff. How do they communicate the effectiveness and really what they're doing in the community? So we work with them in conjunction with Van City Community Foundation and HRSDC, and I'll talk more about that project, to walk through a very similar process of starting from not a technical side, but really what are they trying to accomplish. And broke that down into looking at how are they impacting, if I can find my mouse. Oh. For some reason my mouse is kind of hidden. Which really makes it difficult to navigate. Okay, there we go. So looking at the impact that they have in their community, their operations and finance. Can you guys see okay? Am I standing in front of the screen here? Okay. And their funding and fundraising. So from a mandate community impact point of view, there's a couple of different programs. There's a nutrition program, so looking at the number of meals that are being served and delivered in the community, but also providing some background information on the nutritional content of that. One of Potluck's big approaches is it's not just feeding people, but it's feeding people nutritious meals, which is not always what you get at food banks and different kind of pieces. So looking at the total number of meals, 26,400 meals provided last year to residents of the downtown east side, but also providing a training and employment program of looking at how many total employees we have, how many are coming from the community, and how many are volunteers. But starting to capture things that aren't necessarily just those raw numbers of number of people. So looking at staff receiving benefits packages, food exchange, bus passes, employment support, counseling support, and looking at the number of conversations per month that staff are having about issues like education, hygiene, addictions, mental health, housing, some of those kind of pieces. And really not making the argument that because of how many conversations we have about addiction, one conversation about addiction. So not making the claim that because of that one conversation about addiction, that youth is now off crystal meth and is going to UBC for computer science, but saying that because Potluck is there, there's a space to have those conversations. There's a space to have that engagement and do those kind of pieces. And that's the other thing that I'll kind of get across. Often, nonprofits really want to have the most complex sort of indicators of tracing that whole chain of that meal to that person to going back to school to this benefit of society. And it can be very complex and cumbersome to do that. So I'd encourage you to think about simple kind of things, simple metrics that you can use to illustrate that process. From an operations and finance side, looking at standard kind of business metrics, revenue and growth trends and some of those kind of pieces, looking at customer breakdown, some of these kind of things I'm not going to go into. But the one thing that is interesting is looking at the concept of business and social cost. So for those of you who are in social purpose businesses or nonprofits, one of the differences between that and a for-profit business is that there's more goals than just look at the financial bottom line. For Potluck's case, there's actually job training, providing employment benefits, providing free meals, and there's a cost to that. So the blue here is what the cost would be for any other catering company that's delivering pieces. But most average catering companies don't provide addiction counseling, food support, employment support, have additional staff to deal with absenteeism and so on. So there's a cost for actually doing that. So you can articulate really exactly what that looks like and break that down for exactly what those different kind of components are. So this is really trying to link the financial measures with the actual impact measures that you're making in the community. And then finally looking at funding and fundraising, where Potluck is getting 86%, almost $1 million of revenue last year from their ongoing operations. So this is $1 million that they don't need from the government. They're getting that kind of funding. The challenge now, though, is that they go to funders and ask them for more money, and the funders say, "We don't need money. You're getting like $1 million here. Like, you're fine. You can just go on your own." And if you think about how to link these kind of things together, we know that at the moment we've got 8 people from the local community. These are people from the downtown east side that are getting job skills training. But we actually want to improve that and maybe take that and bring that up to 15 people. We know how much that costs per employee, and we know what the component that comes from ongoing revenue and what the additional support is. So now if we go to look at that, we've actually got an employment fund gap there of $273,000. So you can go to a foundation, just one quick second. But that question of are the numbers real? That's really a good question, because a lot of kind of nonprofits and people want sort of fancy dashboards and all that kind of stuff, but you really do need to take this into account. And like most times, Gilbert says it better than anyone. So if you can't read it in the back, so I didn't have anything useful to say, so I made this pie chart. And then it's like, ooh, it must be true because it's a pie. I spent my life in fortune to the pie. So just to your point, just because you see dashboards and reports and those kind of things, you do need to ask where that data is.